How are you doing today? Well, I hope you were doing excellent because today I want to show you guys an excellent tool for you in the kitchen. So welcome back to another episode of In the Kitchen with none other than myself, Abeje TheAtre. As I said, today I want to teach you guys a really cool technique that I have learned, not that I created, but that I have learned from watching other people. And it's dealing with mushrooms! Yes, I'm so excited. Look, in your plant-based walk, mushrooms are amazing. Or as I say, fungi is friend. And it's really a good source of protein. It's a great replacement for all the meats you might be missing because there are tens and thousands of different types of mushrooms. Now, of course, we can't eat all of them. A very, very small percentage of them are poisonous. But guess what? We have so many available to us to eat, from oyster mushrooms to shiitake mushrooms, baby Bella or cremini. Then you got lion's mane, the lobster mushroom, and so many other ones that I can't even think of in this moment. Also pink oyster mushrooms, gray oyster mushrooms, blue oyster mushrooms. So you see, you've got a lot of options. And today I actually want to show you how to work with 3 specific types. They're going to be baby Bella mushrooms or cremini. Then it's going to be oyster mushrooms, specifically gray oyster mushrooms, and shiitake mushrooms. So let's get straight to it. All right, so displayed in front of you are the gray oyster mushrooms, the baby Bella mushrooms, and then some shiitake mushrooms. I actually, before the video, went ahead and rinsed all of these off. Now you'll hear a lot of people say that you shouldn't rinse off mushrooms because they already contain a lot of water and you're doing nothing but adding more water. Well, usually I rinse them off and let them sit for a second, but honestly, even with me rinsing my mushrooms off, I never have a problem when it comes to cooking them. So screw that. I want to rinse mine off. I do not want to just pat them down with some kind of paper towel or whatever. So we're actually going to start by cutting up our baby Bella mushrooms. Now the key to this really, well, there's really no key to cutting, but what I personally like to do, and I can't have all of these on here, I just want to show you all of the freaking mushrooms. My favorite thing about cutting baby Bella mushrooms is that you can just pull this stem right out. You see that? So now you can cut them separately or you can cut them together. It all depends on what you want. So usually I pull mine apart like this, and then I start by just cutting this alone. Now what you want to do, if you're not trying to have, you know, like big chunks of mushroom, but you want it to be tasted well enough, like not ground up or anything, I chop my mushrooms, at least these ones, into really thin slices. So here's a slice for you to see how thin that is compared to my finger. Not too skinny, but not too thick, because the skinnier they are, the easier it'll be for them to cook and to get that water out, if you ask me. So you're welcome to like cut these in half too if you want. I'm gonna leave them the way they are as I cut them. And when it comes to this part of the mushroom, of course you want to check the ends just to make sure there is no dirt. And if there is no dirt, you can either cut them this way, which I do sometimes, or to keep along with the theme of a bigger mushroom, I'm actually going to cut them long ways after I chop off that. All right, so I will cut it long way, as you can see. So then it comes out like this. Yeah, so let me finish that and then we'll get to the next mushroom. All right, so now we can move on to our shiitake mushrooms, which are one of my top favorites. So the first thing you want to do with these is definitely check out the ends, because as you can see, there may still be some dirt or just really hard pieces on them. I don't like dealing with it, so I just cut it off and put it in my little baggie that I got my mushrooms in. So I'm gonna go ahead and chop off the very ends of all of my shiitakes really quickly. Okay, so when it comes to the shiitake mushrooms, you can cut this off to try to treat it like the baby Bellas, or you can just push that stem down and just cut the same size you cut the other ones, and that stem, you know, it'll still be attached to your shiitakes. So let's do that with a couple more. I'm gonna try to get a longer stemmed one so you can see. Like this. Okay, so instead of cutting it off, I'm literally just going to bend my shiitake mushroom, turn it this way, and then cut. And the reason I turned it this way is because I wanted this to still be long. I didn't want it to be short. So basically you want the knife to be going the same way as the stem rather than this way. But another thing to remember about mushrooms is that they do shrink substantially. So if you're preparing a big meal, make sure you've got plenty of mushrooms, because this, what I have in my bowl right now before I get to the rest, it looks like a decent amount of mushrooms, but it's going to shrink and it's going to be like, what? Oh my gosh. So now we are on to our oyster mushroom. I would say when rinsing off my mushrooms, these are the ones that seem to still absorb the most water. So I actually have a little trick for them that I'm going to show you. So usually when I rinse these off, what I like to do then is to squeeze them and let the water come out. Of course, you can't get all of it, but you get a big chunk of it out. Big piece right here that I gotta. Ooh, you hear all that water? My. Yeah. So we've eliminated some water. So now we can get back to the cutting board. The great thing about these mushrooms is that you actually don't have to cut them. You can literally just pull it apart. See? Just pull it. You know? And it gives you, you know, long stringy pieces. So if you want, you can cut it in half to make it smaller. Honestly, is usually what a lot of people do if they're not doing the press and sear method on these bad babies. However, if you do want to cut them, that's easy as well. You can just take them the long way, you know, and just cut. If I were you though, I would still check on some pieces. This one is fine, but some pieces like this part of the mushroom might be a little big, and so you'll need to pull it apart just so you can get the optimal cooking out of it. But otherwise, like I said, you can just pull. And even that bottom part, if you want to just cut it into thin slices, you can do that like that. Boom. All right, so we are done with that, and all of my mushrooms are officially cut. As you can see, this mixing bowl is full. So we're actually going to get ready to put them on the stove. So before we put them on the stove, what we're actually going to do is cut up some butter, vegan butter, some butter, and put it into the pan to warm it up a little bit. And when I say cut up some butter, I literally mean cut up enough to, you know, cover the bottom of the pan. So the butter is hot enough. Of course, you can just use oil if you want to as well, but I'm using butter because it's usually recommended. So now what I'm going to do is put the stuff on the skillet. I really want to make sure that you see this. So one thing to remember when you are cooking mushrooms is that you don't want to overcrowd the pan, because what happens is you got so many mushrooms sitting on top of each other that the consistency of the cooking between each of them won't be the same. You might get some that are slimy, you might get some that are a little more meaty or crispy, you know, so you just want to be careful. And if you have to cook some first and then set the cooked batch aside and cook some more, then just do that. That's perfectly fine. So as you can see, there's how much I have in my pan. So what I'm actually going to do is let those cook for about 10 minutes without adding any seasonings or anything else. They're just gonna cook on their own, and then after those 10 minutes we'll get to the next step. So we are back. My timer for 10 minutes went off. Now it's time to season the mushrooms. I want to show you guys what they look like, because when I say shrinkage is real, it's as real as black woman hair. Okay, let me show you. Look at that. Okay, that shrinkage, and see the video of how full it was. Okay, so now it's time to season it. The first thing I want to say, when it comes to seasoning your mushrooms, that's literally up to you. You can season it however you want, depending on what you're cooking. There might be a certain taste that you're looking for, but there's a way that I'm just going to show you today just because I can. And we're actually going to start with some Pinot. We're just gonna put a little bit in there and allow the mushrooms to cook with it until the smell of alcohol goes away. And the reason I'm using this is because it'll give a hint of acidity to the mushrooms, and I'm actually making kind of like an alfredo pasta type situation thing, so I want a little bit of that acidity. Here's my pan, right? There you go. Boom. So I smell the alcohol, and of course you want to see the liquid go away. So now it is time to get to seasoning, okay? And the first thing I'm gonna add actually is going to be a little bit of thyme. Thyme and mushrooms go really well together. I don't know why, but they do. But I literally just take like that much. It's probably like a little bit over a teaspoon. Sprinkle it in there with the mushrooms. It's gonna go very well with my pasta. Then I am also going to make sure I have my onion and garlic powder. And don't be shy on the seasonings of your mushrooms. Gonna turn my stove down a little. Do not be shy. They're gonna soak up whatever flavor you give them, and you don't want them to taste bland or under seasoned. Being generous with your seasonings. Now I'm gonna just keep using the spoon. Now that the mushrooms are, you know, cooked per se, you can definitely taste it to see if you need to add anything else, and if so, just add it, you know. All right, now of course I've got some black pepper, paprika, Worcestershire sauce, yay! Goes the stove. I'm literally gonna give the Worcestershire sauce 10-15 more seconds, and then these bad babies are done. I could taste test them, but because I do this very often, there's really no need. This is what it looks like. You see all that condensing it did? All that shrinkage. So like I said, if you have mushrooms left over and you have to make more than one batch, you can take the mushrooms that you've cooked and put them aside. Then I'm gonna put a stick of butter in here and get ready for my second batch. Alright folks, so that is it. I hope that this video was helpful to you. I hope that you will be able to experience more pleasantries with our fungi friends. Anyways, I hope you all have a marvelous day. Make it a great day on purpose. And remember, the kitchen is one of those places where you can be the most creative.